So, I mean, the biggest thing was digitization. When you move from paper shells and physical trading to digitization, what is the
No,
next
I'll
new
tell
thing?
you what the big thing is. The world's stock market for companies wanted to go public is NASDAQ, was NASDAQ. The problem is that the NASDAQ has now grown to a size and scale, and pools of capital there are so large that as a small company, you don't get noticed there. So it's not a great market for a company less than $4 billion market cap to go public.
$4 billion.
Yeah. India is the second best IPO market in the world.
It's not easy to create something from scratch. So you must have followed some kind of discipline to be able to reach a stage where you haven't had any big financial issues since.
There was a lot of pressure on us to downsize, to sack people. Investors and just asking for it, the board are asking for it. As a rule, thus far, at least in the last 36 years of being an entrepreneur, we have not ever done a mass sacking just because the market's bad. It's something we don't believe in. And so there was pressure on us to sack. But because of the cash we had in the bank, we were able to write it out and tell the board we don't want to sack.
You didn't invest in anywhere?
No, we have a venture investing program where we invest in startups. So that is high risk, but we invested in Zomato and Policy Bazaar. We're largest shareholders there. That really paid off.
And if you're a capitalist, are you one of those greedy, money-making, revenue-raising, growth at all costs, which you told us is not the case with you? Or do you also give?
We're good at our work, which is why the company succeeds. We've been lucky, which is why the company succeeds. We also give back in two ways, CSR and personal philanthropy.
So on this concept of AI, there is a lot of talk about all analyst jobs and most jobs getting taken away.
So now you are serving an underserved segment, better market coverage, using AI. You've not sacked anybody.
So today we are joined by Sanjeev Bikhchandani from Naukri.com. And it's a long journey that he has traversed over his life. So we'd like to get to know his experiences and something about him. So he started as a young boy in Delhi with dad in government service, St. Columba's School, and he went to St. Stephen's College and did economics honors. Then he worked for 3 years somewhere. We'll ask him where he worked. And then he went to IIM Ahmedabad, after which he worked somewhere and then became an entrepreneur. And now he's a very storied venture capitalist, and he has been mentoring a lot of startups. So he has done fairly well for himself. So welcome, Mr. Bikhchandani. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for calling me, Asabi.
So for Policy Perspectives Foundation, on behalf of them, we're doing this. So just to start off on a very serious note, Mr. Bikhchandani, your double-barreled surname, has it been a problem in life?
Well, people almost never spell it correctly. Can I ask you the spelling of my last name? What is it?
Bikh.
Not bad. Not bad. That's pretty good.
So,
But you see, I thought about it and I said, देखो अगर हिंदी में बोले, BIKH, BICK, BIK, they're all the same.
yeah.
So अंग्रेजी में हम बोलते हैं कि spell my name wrong, but हिंदी में तो they sound the same.
Okay. So, but then I guess with such a unique name, you were destined for greatness. So
I wouldn't say that, but yeah, what I did research is, how did this name come about? And there's a legend in the family. I don't know how true it is, that when the British were codifying the land records, they said everybody to get land registered in the name has to have a first name and a last name. So apparently Indians before that did not have last names. So some people put their caste name, some people put their subcaste name, some people put the name of father, some people put the name of village. In the case of Sindhis, they took the name of some ancestor, 3-4 generation level, and added Ani to it. So Ani means son of.
okay.
So somewhere I probably had some ancestor called Bikhchand, their name Bikhchandani.
So if you had been American, you'd have been called Mac Bikhchandani.
Possibly. So it really was, I think, insisted upon by the British. If you wanted to have the land registered in your name,
Okay.
or a government job, you have to have a last name, first name and last name. That's how Indians got surnames, and Sindhis particularly added Ani to some ancestor name.
Very interesting.
No, but not all Sindhis did that, but most Sindhis did that.
Okay, great. That's very interesting to know. So
And I also searched on Facebook, I've searched on Google, searched everywhere.
Mm.
Uh, Bikhchandani is a very rare surname. I've been unable to find any Bikhchandani on the internet, at least, who is not related to me.
So there's just a small subset of it.
Yes.
So means you're not a very multiplicative family.
It was not a common name, Bikhchand, and therefore I guess others did not.
Great. That was a nice way to begin. So after IIM Ahmedabad, you took placement and you went into a job. And then what made you, sorry, before IIM Ahmedabad, you went and took a job from college. Then you went to IIM Ahmedabad. Then you took placement. Then just tell us your story quickly.
No, I finished college in 1984. And in those days, not many companies would come to give jobs to people who done BA. It was a very different employment market. You could get jobs after doing engineering. You could get jobs after doing MBA, after doing a CA, some professional qualification, but very rare to get jobs straight after BA. So in college at St. Stephen's, maybe 8 or 10 companies came and they hired maybe 10, 15 people. But most of the others were not even looking for jobs. They were either writing the civil services or doing a master's or doing an MBA, or they went overseas for their PhDs. Some did law. Uh, so it was very rare to sort of see people straight after BA doing a job, but I got lucky. I got hired by an advertising agency, Lintes, in client servicing. And I worked there for 3 years. And then I studied management at Ahmedabad.
But now it is fashion to get 3 years, 4 years of work experience before
It is
looking
more
at-
common. It is more common
But
than earlier.
why did you wait for this time? Why did you go to a job? Why not straight MBA?
Well, I was advised by my brother and his friends who had graduated from Ahmedabad. Okay, and they told me that it's a good idea to work for a couple of years before your MBA because you are able to make more sense of what is being taught in class if you work, because management is a practical course and you can relate the concepts and what you're taught to the real world if you actually work. And he said that if you look at the top 4 or 5 business schools in the world, which are all in the US, say Harvard or Stanford or Wharton, uh, they have 97 or 98% of the class with prior work experience. It's because they believe it's better to have prior work experience. So I figured that'll be a better idea.
So when you finished your IMA, where did you work?
So I worked in a company called HMM, and now it's called GlaxoSmithKline Consumer Healthcare. And I worked in marketing on the brand Horlicks.
And then why did this bug bite you? Where did this
Well,
bug bite you?
I've been thinking for a long, long time that at some point in time, right from school actually, at some point in time in my life, I would be an entrepreneur. I should be an entrepreneur. It's an interesting, useful thing to do. And roughly after 5 years of working, 3 years prior to in advertising and 2 years in post my MBA in GlaxoSmithKline, I figured 5 years it's time now.
And that's when you started off.
Yeah, and I wasn't finding a lot of joy, working for a large corporation at a junior level. So मैंने 5 साल बाद सोच लिया कि अब समय हो गया है.
So eventually, when you hit upon the idea of Naukri.com, was it just something that you always thought you'd do, or it was a new idea that came to you somewhere, visiting some fest or something somewhere?
No, so I quit my job in 1990, and we launched Naukri in 1997. So for 7 years, we drifted and did a whole bunch of small things. Salary surveys, trademarks database, teaching, training, some report writing, some consultancy, small time. I was a part-time journalist for a while. And Naukri must have been the 15th or 20th small idea that, so I was drifting, we were dabbling, experimenting, and Naukri was one of the experiments.
So, and you rode that wave alongside the introduction of internet into the Indian business.
उस समय हमें मालूम नहीं था wave है. When we launched Naukri, there were only 14,000 internet accounts in the country. And we had no clue where the internet will go, how popular it will become. There was no venture capital also that time. So it just looked like a nifty small idea. 14,000 internet accounts with shared accounts that probably meant maybe 100,000, 200,000 users. And I thought to myself that if we can get 500 companies every month to pay us 1,000 rupees to list one job on the site every month, that'll be 5 lakhs a month, that'll be 60 lakhs a year. And I felt if we did that in about 3 years' time, it'll be successful. And that's what success meant to me. And I could take a salary. My ambition was really to earn enough to take a salary. This is one of the first 10 years of being an entrepreneur. I could not take a salary for roughly about 7 years. And when it came sporadically. So I used to teach on weekends at business schools around Delhi to somehow make maybe 4 or 5 thousand rupees a month, uh, maybe 6,000 rupees a month. So I could sort of get by. And, you know, so I was getting by. We were bootstrapping. I was getting by. And then Naukri happened. And after 3 years, we didn't reach 50, we didn't hit 60 lakhs. We hit 26 lakhs. But we were well on our way. And at that point in time, we raised venture capital.
Excellent. So that's an interesting story. So, on the rather formal side, you've seen that part of India prior to the reforms when you were studying, you were in Lintas. Then you saw the reforms that started in 1991. You rode that wave. And now everybody's crazy about this new thing called AI. So, how do you see these three different paradigms?
See, when the reforms first happened, um, I had just quit my job. I quit my job in 1990. Reform happened in 91. Right? Uh, we didn't see it as a wave. We just said, some government policies have changed. It doesn't affect us because we're such a small business that whether there are reforms or no reforms, your life is the same. Right? That's how it started. It's only when you look at it in hindsight do you realize what a difference those reforms made to your consumer markets, to availability of essential things like, there used to be a shortage of power. Um, so we were running the company out of the house. Um, I, you know, and I recall that, the power would go every day for 3 or 4 hours during working hours. And when it came, the voltage would be only 160 volts. So infrastructure was poor. It when I first quit my job, there was an 8-year waiting list to get a telephone line. There was no mobile phone. Landline, 8-year waiting list. So the stuff you take for granted now was you had to struggle for then and was simply not available. Um, and that would hamper your productivity. So,
Then the availability side came.
so I think by 94 or 95, landlines became more easily available. By 95 or 96, mobile phones came. The power situation got better by the late 90s. So things improved. At least some of this was liberalization and economic reform.
So now that we are like all set on power and telephone lines and various other things, so how do you see us moving ahead in this AI crazy boom?
So look, if I look at entrepreneurship then and now, um, I think infrastructure is better. I think capital is more abundant, risk capital. I recall in 1992, I had to struggle for 6 months to get a 30,000 rupee OD limit from a nationalized bank. And the reason why I could not get it was because I did not have collateral. It was impossible to get funding without collateral for a small company. Now, and there was no venture capital available or next to none. Right? So basically, you couldn't get equity, you couldn't get debt. So you had to do it with whatever money you could scrape around and try to do it on your own. You could take advances from customers. If some customer paid in advance, then you can deploy that capital. So capital is a lot more easily available today than it was then. It's a big deal. Infrastructure, capital, big deal. Markets are larger. So especially if you're running a company which requires or which runs off a digital platform, right? Mobile telephony, mobile phones, smartphones penetration, internet, data, UPI. Right? All of that is a huge enabling environment. A lot of it is government policy, I must say. Without deregulation in telecom, without the internet, without data, then and for data, I must also recognize the contribution by Reliance. They made data ubiquitous. UPI, a great government platform.
Okay.
The Aadhaar, great government platform. So all of this has enabled what is called Digital India, but businesses to leverage on this platform. Uh, I think the UPI stack and the uh, is actually a great exportable product. No, since we are talking about geopolitics, China has invested a lot of money in third countries on hard infrastructure, highways, ports, airports, and thereby extended its influence. I think India has got uh, the ability, if we export the UPI stack and enable payment systems in other countries, it's going to be a huge extension of our soft market. And I think there are efforts already going on in this direction, but I think we can step on the gas a bit.
Can the private sector play a role in the exporting of the UPI stack?
Yes, it can, but it will usually be in collaboration with the government.
The government has been very supportive of digital businesses. So I think that should not be.
I think a plan. See, ultimately, if you want your soft power, it has to be a G to G contract first.
Mm.
The government of India in a contract with another government of the country, and under that umbrella, both government companies and private companies can go out and do it.
Okay.
But I think what India and China have got the best payment infrastructure, digital payment infrastructure in the world. It's better than US and Europe by miles. And in emerging countries, even in advanced countries, you can do it. And the world is, at least the West, is very wary of China. And this is strategic infrastructure around the data, around the payments. And therefore, India has probably got a natural advantage there, which if we leverage and exploit, it'll help us a lot. Another area which India can leverage on strategically is our stock market, the National Stock Exchange.
So, I mean, the biggest thing was digitization when you move from paper shells and physical trading to digitization. What is the next new thing?
I'll tell you what the big thing is. The world's stock market for companies wanting to go public is NASDAQ, was NASDAQ. The problem is that the NASDAQ has now grown to a size and scale, and the pools of capital there are so large that as a small company, you don't get noticed there. So it's not a great market for a company less than $4 billion market cap to go public.
$4 billion.
Yeah. India is the second best IPO market in the world. Okay. And we can do IPOs of companies of $100 billion also market cap, and we've done it. The point is that foreign companies cannot come to India to list their companies here. Okay. Because the Indian regulations do not permit companies not incorporated in India to list in India. Now, if we were to change that and market it aggressively globally, then you can list in India as a smaller company. All your emerging market companies, which are too small and in market cap to dream of listing on NASDAQ, can come here. Now, you have a problem in Bangladesh in relations. Bangladesh has got two stock exchanges, Dhaka and Chittagong, much smaller than India. The pools of capital available, much less than India. Now, if the top 30 or 40 or 50 Bangladeshi companies were to list in India and were to have been listed in India and depending on Indian capital and have Indian shareholders, I think you'll create a dependency which will make it very difficult for the Bangladesh government to be really hostile to India. And you can do it in market after market. I would not recommend, given the state of India-Pakistan relations, I would not recommend Pakistani companies, but in every other country you can do it.
So selective restrictions can be applied. Otherwise, you can open it for Nepal, for Bhutan.
For Southeast Asia, for Vietnam, for Singapore, for Indonesia, for Africa, for Middle East.
So don't you think that the gift example is working in the sense that companies are allowed to list in the gift city?
No, Gift City, you are allowed to invest, but you don't get a listing.
A listing, okay.
You need a listing on the NSE.
Okay.
You need Indians to be able to invest. Indian citizens. Indian citizens can't invest in gift. So now I'll give you an example. I think 2 Korean companies have listed this Indian subsidiaries. The market caps that they got extremely high.
Much more than what they would have got elsewhere.
So much so that yes, given the relative turnover vis-a-vis the mother company in Korea and this, the multiples they've got here are much higher, which is why they listed here. So actually, what it tells me is that there's more capital in India than there are opportunities to invest, which is why we are giving the kind of valuation that we're giving and multiples that we're giving to those companies. So Indian investors too need more opportunities to invest. And therefore, if you have good companies from overseas coming into list here.
So if if SEBI does open up listing of foreign companies which are not incorporated in India, then the amount of money that is available in the Indian markets will definitely get into that. But there should be options for outside money also to come in.
Yes,
Is
but
that still?
but that is coming in anyway, right?
That is not restricted at
No.
all. So that's an excellent idea. And I think if I ever have a meeting with anybody important, I should mention it to them today.
Are you saying I'm not important?
So that's a great thought. So let's go back to your
So 2
company.
things, right?
Yeah.
One is what has happened to the NSE and India's stock exchanges. And the first one is UPI, payment stack. These are both exportable and are strategic assets of ours. And we can use them to leverage our soft power globally.
Okay.
We've got to build dependencies.
Yeah. So these are all the good things that you've seen in the last 35 to 40 years. What about all the risks that you may have underestimated when you started off in 97? Like, was there sudden government policy change? There was a sudden regulatory change or the sudden tech disruption? Were there any such things that you underestimated when you started off?
So government policy does change. Rules do change. I think in the beginning it was ambiguous whether there was foreign investment allowed in e-commerce in India or not. Then the government clarified stuff. That kind of wrong-footed us in some companies, right? We invested and we found that we could not get investment from overseas, which meant that the pool of capital available to us was limited because a lot of venture capital comes from overseas. So it is useful and important to have stable government policy, whether it's, I mean, I'm not saying allow foreign investment into e-commerce, but I think if it's not allowed, clarify early and don't change it. Likewise, the gaming law changes. A lot of money went into gaming and then one day, poof, all gone. So I think what investors look for is predictability. I can predict what is going to happen. And therefore that uncertainty has gone.
So similarly, I guess you would say for tax rates and other things like that.
Yeah, you want predictability and you don't want retrospective change.
So reduction of uncertainty from the point of view of regulator is very important.
Is useful.
Okay. So now moving from here on to back to your company, it's not easy to create something from scratch, build a culture, build an organization, build its revenue, figure out how much to expend. So you must have followed some kind of discipline to be able to reach a stage where you haven't had any big financial issues since 2006 when you listed.
Yeah, we're very conservative on how we spend money. We don't, as a rule, spend ahead of revenue or too far ahead of revenue. We don't want to be wrong-footed and get stuck without capitals. Right? And I think this is partly because of what I experienced in the first 5 years of working in companies and the next 10 years of being an entrepreneur, where we were always short of cash. And therefore, we valued cash in the bank a lot. And therefore, even now, we retain a very large amount of cash on our balance sheet. But this large cash on the balance sheet also enables us to take some decisions. It gives us the confidence to take some decisions which we would not have otherwise. I'll give you two instances. 2008 global financial crisis. Lehman went down. The next 2 quarters in a row, Naukri sales degrew by 25-26% a year, minus. Now, a lot of pressure, no light in the end of the tunnel. Nobody knows when this thing is going to end. The global economy had fallen off cliffs. There was a lot of pressure on us to downsize, to sack people. Investors and just asking for it, the board are asking for it. And as a rule, thus far, at least in the last 36 years of being an entrepreneur, we have not ever done mass sacking just because the market's bad. Right? It's something we don't believe in. And so a lot of pressure on us to sack. But because of the cash we had in the bank, we were able to write it out and tell the board we don't want to sack. Now, our competition all sacked and downsized. But because of TARP, suddenly there was liquidity and the market bounced back. And when the market bounced back, we had not sacked anybody. So we had all our sales teams in place.
Okay.
So we were able to actually take advantage of the bounce back better than our competitors did. We were able to take a decision that we think was more ethical and not let go of people, because our whole belief was that our company has been built by our people. And in this market, they never find a job. So you can't just sack them just because markets are tough. We said we decided we'd sacrifice profits before we sacrifice people. And because we had enough cash in the bank, we were comfortable that we can ride it through, confident.
So that's
the first instance.
Yeah.
The second time was COVID. We had a few thousand crores in the bank, and April, June 2020, that quarter, Naukri sales degrew, I think, minus 44%. Right. Once again, there was pressure to sack people, but we said, we asked our CFO, listen, if sales go to zero, if marketing expenditures go to zero, if increments we don't give increments, how long can the company last? And he came back with the number saying 3 years. And 3 years, we said we'll figure it out. We don't know what's going to happen, but we won't sack. So we didn't sack. But at that time, it was a very brave decision because there was no treatment protocol, there was no vaccine, there was no drugs to address it. There was no idea of what's going to happen. No light at the end of the tunnel. And we waited and things bounced back. But we were able to take these decisions because we had enough cash in the bank. So we value cash in the bank a lot. It gives us, a cushion. Investors criticize us that your ROCE is low because you got too much cash. And please give it to shareholders. And we say, no, this is actually a strategic resource for us. We can take decisions which we would not otherwise take.
So cash is your strategic reserve. That's a very conservative thing in today's world where everybody wants to spend money like anything. And a very interesting set of two examples you've given us compared to what Oracle just did in the global markets.
Well, look, each company is different. Each situation is different. I do not know what compulsions there were then. But in these two instances, this is what we've done, and this is why we've done it, and this is why we were able to do it, because we had enough cash.
And what about capital? I mean, what did you do? You just kept your cash in basically fixed deposits and cash?
We're conservative. We're very conservative.
You didn't invest in anywhere?
No, we have a venture investing program where we invest in startups. So that is high risk. But we invested in Zomato and Policy Bazaar. We're largest shareholders there. That really paid off. But the treasury policy, other than the venture policy, there's a venture policy and there's a treasury policy. The treasury policy is very conservative. Fixed deposits, money market mutual funds.
Okay, that's great to hear.
See, what we don't want to do is stand up in front of our shareholders at the end of the quarter and say, we lost principal. We don't mind a lower interest rate, a low rate of return, but we don't want to say we lost principal.
So do you see other companies like especially the newer ones?
Well, the ones we invested, we encourage them to have a conservative treasury policy. We said you can lose money in business, but please don't lose money in speculative financial investments.
Okay. You mentioned Zomato and Policy Bazaar. So these are the two companies that succeeded amongst the many that failed. So what is the mistake you made in selecting the entrepreneurs who failed?
So I'll tell you. First of all, some have failed, two succeeded, many are work in progress. Okay. अभी भी उम्मीद है,
अच्छा,
ठीक है,
हाँ,
ऑप्टिमिज्म है, वो कामयाब होंगे, ठीक है. See, we respect every entrepreneur, the ones we invest behind, even the ones we don't invest behind. Uh, See, an investor only risks his or her money. The entrepreneur risks his or her life. And that is always more precious. As investors, we have a portfolio of companies. If two succeeds, 8 fail. As an investor, I'm still successful on a portfolio basis. But the entrepreneur has only got one life. And there only does one company right now at a time. And if that fails, he has lost 10 years, 15 years of his life. That's not replaceable. So we respect entrepreneurs for the risk they take, for the passion they bring to the table, the effort, the commitment, uh, the competence. We respect that. Having said that, there are many reasons why a company may not succeed the way it thought it might. There could be a regulation change. There could be competition coming in. There could be, you just misjudge stuff. The customer didn't want what we were making. Maybe you overestimate the size of the market.
Okay.
Right? So there are many reasons.
So I mean, is it okay for you to mention some of the names that you feel are about to succeed?
So I'll talk about one or two, which I think might go public in the next couple of years, which we invested behind. So one is a company called Shiprocket. Logistics, courier aggregator. Very smart bunch of entrepreneurs. Another is a company called Merito, which does admission application ERP for education institutions. Right? So, there are some in the pipeline.
So these ones that are just about to IPO and the ones that may be reaching that stage, what is the strategy that you've been recommending to them with regard to their growth phase in their revenue stream?
So we are conservative always. We say get to profit. What if we don't get your next round? Don't burn too much cash. Don't be crazy aggressive on growth so that you're taking too many risks. So while we want growth, we are very, very conscious of the risk side of the equation as well.
Okay, great. So there was a time where a lot of these startups were getting lured by foreign venture capitalists, and they were all incorporating in Delaware or in Singapore and wherever else. And then I remember you were the one who first started talking about the concept of flipping, that these startups were flipping and incorporating overseas. So all the data that was Indian essentially was overnight transferring to the West.
It's not just data. You see, Indians cannot invest outside India so easily. So ownership was transferring. So
you're depriving the Indian investor.
Not ownership. You see, it's like now a foreign company. Market Indian hai, sales India mein ho raha hai, but ownership is overseas. They're not Indian companies anymore.
So why was that happening?
It was happening because enough investors and some entrepreneurs wanted to be away from Indian regulations. So when you are incorporated overseas and you have a subsidiary in India, which is doing the business in India, your overseas entity is out of the ambit of Indian regulators, whether it's RBI or SEBI or MCA or tax. The answer has got to be that make Indian regulations more friendly for founders and for investors, that they don't feel the need to incorporate overseas. But you see, I think people realize two, three things. One is, in some sectors, if you are not incorporated in India, the regulation may not be that friendly, such as fintech, finance. You know, if you're a foreign company, you need a lot more. You need to jump through a lot more regulatory hoops with RBI to get your various licenses to operate. The second thing that helped actually, inadvertently, is as Nasdaq became this market where you needed very large market caps to list, a lot of these Indian companies couldn't get there,
Okay.
which means they could not list overseas. Simultaneously, starting with the Zomato IPO in 2021, uh, there was a flood of IPOs in India for new age companies. SEBI relaxed the rules for loss-making companies to go public. And people began to get exits if they were domiciled and incorporated in India. So that changed the game. So now people are saying, hey, I can't list overseas so easily without getting to a certain size, but I can list much earlier in India. So India is suddenly a much more attractive market to be domiciled in because you can get your exits easier.
Okay. So have you seen companies flipping back from
So there's
overseas?
a tax incidence that happens if you flip back. So some are doing it, some have done it. Many more want to do it, but it's there's a huge tax cost
Okay.
to do it.
Okay. So, but then is the
But you see, there are still companies incorporating overseas, especially in the area of AI.
so on this concept of AI, there is a lot of talk about all analyst jobs and almost jobs getting taken away. So, what is your general view on that from the IT point of view?
The jury's out. We don't know. There's a lot of talk about this. Uh, Certainly, we have not sacked anybody on account of AI. We have just made our people do more stuff and get more productive. So I'll give you an example. Naukri has got about close to 1.5 lakh clients, people who hire through us, companies and recruitment firms. Now we sell to them. So the top 10% are serviced by a field sales force. People go out, do meetings, make sales calls, and sell and service and upsell. The next 20-30% um, are sold to using a telesales team. The bottom 60% in terms of value of business to us, they buy on their own, that self-service. They come, they pay online, right? But it's not financially viable to be servicing them in person. You don't make enough money. The cost of servicing more than what the revenue you get. But it's also quite possible and likely, if somebody talks to them, they can perhaps upsell them or service them better and increase the sales. So we're using voice bots to agents to call up the bottom 60%. And you can't make out it's not a human being using AI. And suddenly they're getting service better.
Okay.
So now you are serving an underserved segment, better market coverage using AI. You've not sacked anybody, right? Uh, just one example. Uh, in my own company, and now in my own business, investing part of the business, uh, we have just got more productive using AI.
Okay.
So, a couple of months back, Mr. Vishal Sikka did a 30-minute talk on what AI is going to do. Right now, there's so much content out there, video. I don't have time. But I just told a colleague of mine, yeah, let's put it into AI and see what he's saying. He gave me a 3-page summary. Now, this is stuff that I would not have done otherwise. So we are doing stuff that would not get done otherwise in improving our productivity.
Okay. So that's a very positive thing that you're saying right now.
So no, so that's possible. It is also possible that some jobs and roles will get replaced.
So globally, we are seeing that happening, and that is going to impact all the immigration of Indians who are going overseas. As it is, there's deglobalization. There is a lot of issue of Indians not coming to their countries. So this kind of impact on our remittances, and what should we do to improve our people's chances if they get jobs overseas?
So I'll tell you. The question is, can there be government to government agreements, treaties, where we will send people who are skilled and trained to your country, and they will not get the right to immigrate. They can work, come back after 5 years, but they will not get citizenship or permanent settlement rights. And that will reassure a lot of people. And there are such treaties being negotiated, and there are organizations working towards it. And there is a need for Indians there. Okay, in specific sectors like healthcare, like hospitality. अब इसराइल में अटैक हुआ October 2023 में, and I was amazed to see the number of Indian healthcare workers there who were impacted in that attack. That means there's a large base already there of people. What we need are enough government-to-government agreements and treaties. We need enough private sector participation to train people in the technical skills, in the language skills, in the cultural socialization, and then send them out.
Okay, so there are organizations working on this.
We are beginning, but a country that's adept in this and much more advanced is Philippines.
Philippines.
Sending out people, sending out workers.
Okay.
And they've sort of institutionalized this. We can learn from them and do the same thing at a much larger scale. We've got more population.
So we've heard that your company sits on a large amount of data, and it has obviously a lot of meta factors into it, which means gender, regional, socioeconomic balances, their kind of aspirations. So have you ever done any kind of analysis by which you can say that these are the characteristics of the Indian young population?
So we do analysis, but typically what we don't release a lot of it. Typically, we believe the data belongs to the individual. We have taken all the permissions needed should you ever need to use it, but we do not exercise that right. But look, a few things are apparent to us that, we also have a blue collar site called Job Hai.
Job Hai.
Job Hai. JOBHAI. There's also really interesting trends. But look, it's pretty obvious that, economic development, job creation in the organized sector is happening in certain geographies more than other geographies. So development in India is industrial development is geographically lopsided. Right? That is something that's been known. We can see it also in our own systems. Right? Now, what the remedy to it, I think, is deregulation.
Okay.
The kind of deregulation that is needed is pretty radical. I think the recent Jan Vishwas bill has taken a good stab at it. But a lot of the deregulation has to happen at the state level.
Okay.
Right? Inspector Raj. See, if Inspector Raj goes away, you will add 2 or 3% to your GDP growth every year without investing an extra rupee.
So you're saying Inspector Raj is there?
Is there everywhere in every state.
Okay.
And states are now some states are getting cognizant of the importance of this and are deregulating. And wherever they're deregulating, seriously, we are going to see massive impact. My hypothesis is, like I said, 2-3% GDP growth बढ़ सकता है with 0 rupee of extra investment, just deregulate.
Deregulating. Interesting. Interesting thought. So, second last question. So you told us all about how you do not sack your workers and all that
Up till now, we have been able to avoid doing it in times of crisis,
because you had a good corpus available with you.
and we our product is still relevant,
Hmm.
and we figured when the market comes back, we'll come back.
So do you think in this Gulf War the market is coming back, or it's
Well, the ceasefire is a very positive development, uh, and if it sustains and is a permanent settlement, we may have averted a disaster, having come very close to the edge of the abyss. I think we've got maybe a crore Indians working in the Middle East, sending remittances back to India of $50 billion every year. That's serious money. Now, if there's a massive disruption there and these people are forced to come back to India, you lose the remittances, you get 1 crore people back without a job. That'll be a disaster. I think our oil imports, our fertilizer imports, our sulfur imports, a whole bunch of imports come from the Strait of Hormuz, through the Strait of Hormuz. We are seeing the impact of shortages, which hopefully now will be okay
okay?
and better, and we'll come back to normal. So if this ceasefire becomes permanent, I think it would have been a near miss. We got lucky.
So unemployment, I mean, which is something which feeds basically into the business of Naukri, that if there are unemployed, then Naukri.com is really needed. So
Well,
and
that's a myth.
okay.
I'll tell you why.
Uh,
The bulk of our business is not because people are hiring unemployed people. It's because people are switching jobs.
okay.
They're already employed, they're switching to a different job in a different company. That's when you get paid.
That is countering a myth correctly.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. So, what about the recent controversy? You said you look after your employees, but what about the temporary employees like gig workers? You've invested in Zomato.
Yeah.
So, is there
So,
some
so,
story
so,
there?
so, so the gig workers are gig workers. They're not employees, not temporary, not permanent. They're gig workers. Now we look at the data, and we are conscious of this. In every board meeting in Zomato, in HRL, there's a conversation on the board where I hope the gig workers are doing okay. We're giving a fair deal to them. The last time I checked, what we data showed, and it has consistently showed that if you put in, say, 10, 11 hours a day, 6 days a week, that's less than Mr. Narayana Murthy's 70 hour week.
Hmm.
Okay, you will probably make about 36,000 rupees a month, which is well above minimum wage in the country, which is more than a fresh soft engineer gets from a software services company, which is probably 7, 8 times more than what an article trainee in a chartered accountancy firm gets. Both of these are skill jobs. So actually, it's not bad.
So, you're saying the gig worker, if he's working about 10 to 11 hours a day, 6 days a week, is actually getting paid better than
Yeah,
some.
no, I'm not saying that's there's a great career there because there isn't a lot of career progression.
Yeah.
But it's also the fact that most people doing gig work don't stay in that job more than a few months.
So, you mentioned
So it's a stepping stone to.
just under your breath, you mentioned a 70-hour week, which was recently in the news. So, isn't that a good thing that people should work hard, 70 hours,
I
make
think
more money?
see. I'll tell you on this one. No, I may be criticized for this, but I stand in Mr. Narayana Murthy's camp. Right now, you should not be forced to work 70 hours a week, but it's generally a good idea to work a little harder because that's how you move ahead in life. So, बिना मेहनत के no big achievement is possible. Right? So you got to figure out, am I in apprenticeship for a future leadership position? And that's how I'm looking at my career early on in life. And if I believe I'm in that, I'm in apprenticeship for a future leadership position. Leadership दिहाड़ी पे नहीं होती, leadership प्रति घंटा नहीं होती.
True. So, you're talking about executive positions,
No,
but
I'm
what
talking
about
about
the workers in
no.
factories and all that?
So workers, in fact, will work as per the laws and not more, not less. Right? And if they work more than that, they get paid overtime.
Hmm.
Right? And those are the laws. and good companies follow laws.
Okay, so we've been at it for a long time. So one final question. So how do you answer to the fact that you are now a capitalist?
Uh,
You are. And if you're a capitalist, are you one of those greedy, money making, revenue raising, growth at all costs, which you told us is not the case with you? Or do you also give?
we're good at our work, which is why the company succeeds. We've been lucky, which is why the company succeeds. Uh, we also give back in two ways: CSR and personal philanthropy. So we back about 30, 40 not for profits from the company CSR. We back another 30, 40. I back another personally. Uh, the biggest project that we backed, two big projects we backed from company CSR and personally are Ashoka University and Plaksha University.
Both Plaksha and Ashoka.
Plaksha from the company CSR and Hitesh Oberoi, my co-founder. He backs, supported Plaksha a lot. I have supported Ashoka more than Plaksha.
So, I mean, why did you create a university? You could have done something else, like a hospital or something. What is the
So
motivation?
I believe in strategic philanthropy. Are you investing behind a new model or force multipliers? Right. Ashoka was a new model of a university in many ways. It was solving an unsolved problem. And in India, we figured that if something succeeds, we get copied. So the government created 5 IITs first. But when the graduates of those IITs succeeded globally, demand for admission to IITs multiplied, and a few thousand private engineering colleges came up, producing engineers. And that helped. So we know if Ashoka works, it will get copied. There could be a dozen Ashokas, maybe a few dozen Ashokas.
Excellent thought. So, as distinct from being a philanthro-capitalist, you want to call yourself a strategic philanthropist.
The kind of philanthropy that actually works better is stuff that is either force multiplier or introducing new models.
Brilliant.
That has most impact in our week.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Bikhchandani. It's been excellent talking to you.
Thank you.
It's been a great pleasure that you came along and spoke under the aegis of the Policy Perspectives Foundation. So hope to see you around. And this turned out to be a very serious interview, which is what one has not known you to be. But maybe at some later date, we'll get together for a really informal and very happy kind of conversation, which our viewers can wait for. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.